Is the Barbarian being nerfed into the ground inside of PvP? This is a question that I'm going to answer here today with the incoming update, because we did just get confirmation that an update is dropping for us in North America on the 26th inside of Diablo Immortal. We're going to be diving into these Chinese patch notes to take a look at exactly what is coming with these balance changes, because there are balance coming to many different classes, not just a nerf of the slam hammer build that I'm currently using with my Barbarian that has actually made me fall in love with PvP inside of the game. I'm having a blast in PvP. This is something I've never done before and really dove into, battlegrounds inside of PvP. Been absolutely loving it, but that could change with what we're about to read. And I'm not just talking about nerfs to the Barbarian, but also buffs to other classes that are going to impact the interactions that are had with the Barbarian in PvP. Again, this is coming on the 26th, and this announcement should be official tomorrow from Blizzard. When that happens, I'll bring you a breakdown of the patch notes from the North American version of the game so you guys can know exactly, confirmed for North America. But for now, let's see what China has to say. Modifications to the Demon Hunter. Now, keep in mind that Barbarian, if you're in Battlegrounds, you've been experiencing Barbarians coming in and slamming and stunning and doing a ton of kills and really dominating PvP. I love this, and I don't want these changes. We'll see how much they actually nerf the Barb, if they nerf it into the ground. If that's the case, maybe it's time to switch class again. But modifications to the Demon Hunter. The legendary equipment Breaking the Ban with Force escape skill no longer slows down enemies it hits, but instead imprisons them, preventing them from using displacement skills. So now the Demon Hunter, who was previously one of the strongest classes in PvP, instead of slowing down incoming Barbarians, they're going to imprison them, making them actually stuck, not allowing them to move, making it more difficult for Barbarians to get closer to some of these more squishy, more agile character classes like a Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter's legendary equipment, Minor Wounds Shadow Knife, will also give the enemy an additional serious injury effect with reduced life recovery. All right, now it gives us some really great what the developers say notes right here. Let's take a look. Enhance the Demon Hunter's flexibility in facing an advancing enemy. That's a Barbarian running in and storming to go take them down. Change the declaration to imprisoning the enemy and prohibiting the use of displacement skills, which is more in line with the current confrontation environment. Talking about breaking the current meta. Added a function for the Demon Hunter to reduce enemy health regen. Hopefully, Demon Hunters can actually put pressure on enemies with high regen ability and increase the fun for the confrontation. Now, Demon Hunters out there, I have friends in mind who are playing Demon Hunter right now, are going to absolutely love this. The Demon Hunter is getting a buff. Let's take a look at the Crusader. Modifications here. The Crusader's legendary equipment, Anointed Sulfur, is no longer affected by cold and freezing during the Holy Flame consecration state. The Judgment of the Crusader legendary equipment, Star of Vanity, will now apply the commenced effect to the enemy, and the damage suffered can be by the convicted target can be increased when using skills. Developers' comments. Added immunity to cold and freezing to the Crusader. Hopefully, this will give players more opportunities to fight against cold and freezing. Well, that makes absolute sense. If you have cold or freeze on any of your skills, the Crusader is going to be less affected by that. Next, Condemnation is a new attempt, hoping that the Crusaders will have a greater advantage when fighting against enemies who frequently use skills. Barbarians, spamming the hammer of the Ancients. That's, again, going to be a small buff for the Crusader in those situations. Now, Barbarian. This is really what it all comes down to, since it is a Barbarian meta in the game. Modifications. The cooldown of the Barbarian's legendary equipment, 10,000 tons of shock skill, has been lengthened. The basic damage has been reduced, and the maximum damage after being fully charged remains unchanged. So it's going to do the same amount of damage, but you can't spam it. Bam, 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 the way that we've been doing, which has been absolutely amazing. In the current version, this is the developer's notes, Barbarian players have built a new combat style around the legendary equipment, the 10,000 tons of shock, with a short cooldown time for the Hammer of Ancestors, or the Hammer of Ancients. Players have gained an advantage in confronting through their own wisdom and operation. So they're not saying that we broke the game, they're just saying that we figured out a way to use a build that was really had an advantage. But at the same time, the current short cooldown time of the entry actually increases the player's operating burden and also brings unfairness to players playing on different platforms. Therefore, In the balance adjustment on the 26th, we will slightly increase the cooldown time of the above mentioned skills, hoping to maintain fairness among multiplayers. At the same time, we'll reduce the initial damage and keep the damage after full energy uncharged, returning to the original intention of the charge design and bringing the balanced gaming experience. So, my hope here is that they don't ban it to all hell. I hate imbalance changes when something gets balanced and it's suddenly irrelevant, because that really sucks. Tuning it, tweaking it so that it's not a massive advantage, but you could still use the build, well, that's optimal. And that's what I would love to see here with the Barbarian. Now, yes, I'm probably biased. I just start getting into PvP 2.5 years into the game, for the first time really enjoying Battlegrounds, and the class that I've been using for this and the build that I've been using only for a week and a half is now getting a nerf. Am I at fault for this? Did I bring light to this? I surely hope not, and I highly doubt it. But kind of just joking there. But at the same time, I'm hoping that the build is still relevant. I hope it's not completely dead, because I love being the Barbarian. It would really suck to have to switch from the class. The Berserker. Modifications. The cooldown of the Berserker Legendary Equipment Tracker skill is extended and the damage is increased. 2. The shield of the Berserker's initiate skill, Shadow Infusion, no longer removes the immunizes all negative effects, but removes and immunizes control states. What do the developers say? The control time of Berserker Legendary Equipment Tracer is too short. We have adopted a similar balance adjustment approach for the Barbarian Legendary Equipment 10,000s of Shock, like we just spoke of, increasing the cooldown time, this skill, and slightly increasing the skill damage. The Shadow Infusion skill is currently too closed, and the function of the immunity to negative status allows the Berserker to ignore all interactions with the opponent. Are they talking about the Blood Knight? I don't even know what class the Berserker is. This will affect the confrontation experience of the professional players and reduce the fun of skill matchmakers for Berserker players. Therefore, the next version will slightly weaken the shield, retaining the most used immune control function, but also making it possible for players to interfere with the Berserker. Necromancer. Man, the Necromancer needs a buff. Let's see if he's going to get it. The Necromancer's legendary equipment, Exquisite Wounds of the Unholy Gear, will also give the enemy an additional serious injury effect with reduced health recovery. The Ghost of the Necromancer's legendary equipment, Wind of the Dead, now applies the Curse of Weakness effect to the enemies it hits. The damage caused by the cursed enemies is reduced, and the used skills will also extend the duration of the curse. And a third change, the duration of the Wall of the Dead, Bone Wall, of the Necromancer's legendary equipment, Destruction Speed, is reduced and the damage slightly increased. It doesn't sound like they're giving much of a buff to the Necro. All right, let's see the comments here from the devs. Added the ability for the Necromancer to reduce the enemy's health recovery. That is a buff for PvP. I hope the Necromancer can put pressure on enemies with high recoverability and increased the fun of the confrontation. Essentially, that's the same thing that they said about the Demon Hunter. Number 2, Curse of the Weakness, is a new attempt. We hope that the Necromancer will have a great advantage when fighting against enemies who use frequent skills. Again, something that's specifically like against skill spamming PvP. And the Wall of the Dead currently lasts for a long time, which can lead to some adverse experiences in extreme cases. So the duration has been reduced. All right, so that's not really killing anything. It's just reducing it, but adding more damage. The damage done by it's going to be the same, but the control effect is going to be shortened. At the end of the day, Necromancer, I don't see it popping itself up to being a top class inside of the game, specifically in PvP. With that said, Necromancer has its functions, and it is still a fun class to play. With all this said, is the Barbarian going to die, or will it live on in PvP?